Welcome to Module 4, Lesson 3, Percentages. A percentage represents a ratio out of 100. So for example, 25% is 25 divided by 100, which is 0.25. And 150% is 150 divided by 100, which is equal to 1.5. So many of you guys probably use the trick of moving the decimal point 2 spaces to the left to convert a percentage to a decimal. So normally if this was my regular high school class, I would advise students not to do that and just to remember to divide by 100 because I really want my students to understand the math behind it and not just a trick of moving the decimal 2 spaces to the left, right? Because it's like, why do we move the decimal point? But since you guys are taking the SAT and you need to focus on testing strategies, if you're used to converting percent to decimal by moving the decimal point, then just remember the trick, right? Our goal here is to get the best score possible on this exam. So either way, a key formula to remember is that percentage equals part over whole times 100. And we'll manipulate this formula to solve it for either the part or the whole, depending on what part you're solving for and what the question's asking you. So let's take a look at a few basic percentage problems. What is 30% of 50? So we're going to use the formula part equals whole times percentage over 100. So our whole is 50 times our percentage, which is 30 over 100, right? 30% is 30 over 100, and we get 15. Or, right, if you're using a decimal, right, and you're not dividing by 100, then it would be 50 times 0.30, which is 15. 25 is 20% of what number? So now we're going to use the formula whole equals part over percentage over 100. So all I did here was rearrange the formula to solve for whole because now we want to know what the whole is. So we're going to take our part, which is 25, and divide it by the percentage over 100 or divide it by 0.2, and we get 125. So 25 is 20% of 125. Please pause this video and work on the Lesson 3 Level 1 problems in the workbook. In Level 2, we'll look at percent change. So we could either have a percent increase or a percent decrease. And these are the two formulas that you're going to use. So for percent increase, we take the new value, we subtract the original value, divide it by the original value, and then multiply the result by 100. For percent decrease, we take the original value, subtract the new value, divide that over the original value, and multiply the result by 100. So let's take a look at an example. The price of a product increases from $40 to $50. By what percent did the price increase? So we need to use the percent increase formula, right? So I put it here. Now we'll just substitute our values into the formula and solve. So our new value is 50 and our original value was 40. So we'll do 50 minus 40, divide that by 40, and then multiply it by 100. And you get 25%. So the price of the product increased by 25%. All of these calculations, you can just put them directly into your calculator all at once and get the answer. So because you're taking the SAT, it's a timed test, Don't worry about doing 50 minus 40 and then dividing it by 40 and then multiplying by 100. Just put it all in the calculator. Next question. After a 20% discount, the price of a shirt is $80. What was the original price? So let's let X equal the original price of the shirt, right? That's what we're looking for. So we'll set up an equation. X times the difference of 1 and 0.2 equals 80. This part right here, right? This 0.2, that's the 20% discount. And we're taking away from 1 because it's a discount, right? So it's a decrease. Now we'll just use inverse operations to solve for X. We'll divide both sides by 0.8. I just got 0.8 because 1 minus 0.2 is 0.8. And we get X equals 100. So the original price of the shirt was $100. Please pause this video and work on the Lesson 3, Level 2 problems in the workbook. In Level 3, we'll look at more percentage word problems. So some tips for these word problems is first, translate the words into math, right? Of means multiply, is means equal. Be careful with percentage points, right? A 10% increase followed by a 10% decrease does not bring you back to the original value. And we're going to take a look at a problem like that. And estimate when needed, right? For tough questions, round your numbers and make the calculations faster. So compound percentage change is something that you're going to see in some of these word problems. And when multiple percentage changes occur, you'll use certain successive multipliers, right? So if we're increasing by X%, you multiply by 1 plus X over 100. If we're decreasing by X%, you'll multiply by 1 minus X over 100. So let's look at an example. A price increases by 10% and then decreases by 15%. What is the overall percentage change? So first we're going to multiply by 1.1 for a 10% increase, right? So we'll do 1.1 times the original price. And we're just getting 1.1 by using that multiplier, 1 plus X over 100, right? So 1 plus 10 over 100 is 1.1. Then we'll multiply by 0.85 for a 15% decrease, right? I'm getting 0.85 by doing 1 minus 0.15. We're subtracting that 15%. So now our final price, right, is going to be 1.1 times 0.85 times the original price. So when you multiply 1.1 and 0.85, you get 0.935 times the original price. So now the overall percent change is we take this number right here that we found in the second step and we convert it to a percentage, right? 0.935 as a percentage, right? If you multiply that by 100, you get 93.5%. We're going to subtract 100% from that and we get negative 6.5%. So what does that mean? It was an overall 6.5% decrease. The negative sign indicates that it was a percent decrease and not a percent increase. Please pause this video and work on the Lesson 3, Level 3 problems in the workbook. Once you're finished with the problems in the workbook, please move on to the next video for Lesson 4.